So over here at vessel making, we make pots a couple different ways here, both hand thrown and slip cast. I'll be demonstrating some of our hand throwing techniques, making one of our classic mugs. So we measure out the clay all the same weight, and we'll start by centering the clay. So if you notice, my hands are nice and wet. The clay is stuck down onto the bat, and I'm forcing the clay up into a cone. Then I'm going to give some pressure from the top and from the sides, pushing it down into a disc. And I'll do that maybe more than once to work out any of the irregularities in the clay, make it nice and smooth and workable. There we go. Next, I'll be opening up the inside, using a finger to push down and out and really define that inside of the cup. Next, I'll be pushing up the walls using one hand on the outside, one hand on the inside, giving it some pressure and working that clay upwards. So as I'm throwing, I'm slowing down the speed and lessening the amount of pressure. And now I'm going to start to belly out my mug. So using a little more pressure from the inside, I'm able to push that clay outwards. Get that shape going. So I'd say probably about half of our vessels are wheel thrown and half are slip cast. There we go. And once I get the shape mostly figured out, I'm going to use a sponge on a stick and a metal rib to finish off the silhouette. Now this is just the first part of the process over here. After throwing, we'll let them dry and we'll apply a decorative slip to the outside and attach a handle and finish it off with our maker's marks and stamps on the bottom. Then they get fired in our kiln over here. It's a bisque kiln. It's the first initial firing, shrinks a bit, turns from mud into stone, in which case we bring it back across the street where it goes to the glazing department and it gets glazed. Before it's finally inspected, make sure it's up to high quality standards, and then it'll get put into the gallery for you to take home. So final finishing on this mug here, I'm going to take a bit of a chamois and round off the lip and use a wooden knife to create our beaded foot. There we go. And get rid of any water that's hanging out in the bottom.
Slip casting is the other process we use to make vessels here at Pewabic Pottery. It really lends itself to vases or vessels that have ornamentation on them or forms that would be too time consuming or too difficult to make individually once they've been thrown on the wheel. So after I pour the slip, which is just liquid clay, into the plaster molds, they're left to sit for about an hour. At that point, I dump the excess slip out of the mold and they're left to sit overnight so that the vessel can separate from its plaster shell. The next day, I'll come in, I'll break the molds open, remove the vessels from the base of each plaster mold. I'll clean them up with a fettling knife, give them a sponge down so that the surfaces are nice and smooth, and then after all that's finished, they each get a Pewabic and Detroit stamp, and then you have a finished base ready for bisque fire.